How's it going? Welcome to Sunny Sheets. I'm Carson, and I kind of wanted to do like a book updates kind of video. Basically just talking about what on my bookshelf I'm excited to read, and maybe like reading plans and like goals and like that kind of stuff. I don't know, I'm kind of winging it here, but kind of just wanted to talk a little more generally about the stuff I'm looking forward to in the future. Not just talking about what I read like at that moment in time, you know what I mean? I'm not super strict about TBR, so this isn't like a TBR of here are the 4 books I'm gonna read next month, but just generally talking about what I'm excited to get to. I kind of lied. I mean, all of these other books are about the future, but just to provide an update about where I'm at right now, I'm reading The Lions of Al Rassan by Guy Gavriel Kay. It's a historical fiction novel about political intrigue and about love and about betrayal, and a really emotionally investive war story, essentially. I am just about halfway through. I have tabbed this book up because I am loving it. There's so much super poetic and crafty writing. It's really beautiful prose, which that's a thing I'm into, and yeah, I am absolutely enjoying this right now. So going back to a video I made not that long ago, it was sort of detailing how I want to focus on 6 particular book series. And I had finished my first one. My first goal was to get caught up with the Gunmetal Gods books, which I did, fully caught up to Dark Drinker. And I think once I had finished and got caught up with that first series, it was kind of like a nice breath of fresh air, and I was just kind of reading a bunch of standalones I wanted to get to, but it's time to lock back in. We're getting to series 2. I'm getting caught up, or not really caught up, it's a finished trilogy, but I'm finishing the Southern Reach trilogy, and this is Authority by Jeff Vandermeer. And honestly, spoiler for the next book chat, but this is what I'm getting to next. I'm picking this up right after I finish The Lions of Al Rassan. I'm stoked to get to this book because it's not really a direct sequel, a continuation of what happened to the main character of Annihilation, but it's more of a delving into the facility of Southern Reach, and I'm assuming it'll get to more of their inner workings, what their goals are. Because in Annihilation, you know that the Southern Reach facility is like deceptive in the kind of information that they were telling to the people that went on this expedition. So really eager to get into Authority. And in general, and just into horror and creepy stuff. It's been a while since I've read something horror, so super stoked to get back into this. And for those who didn't see my 6 series to focus on video, here's a graphic that will be edited in here showing you what I want to read and where I'm at. So the next 2 books are probably my 2 most hyped books on my pile of unread books. I haven't talked about it much at all on this channel, but I read and I loved Snow Crash by Neal Stephenson. And funny enough, I was looking for a lot more of his more popular works. He's really known for Anathem, he's known for Cryptonomicon, Diamond Age, and I think Snow Crash probably his biggest book. But I came across Zodiac by Neal Stephenson, which is a book I have never heard anyone mention by him. All of his other bigger books are the ones that are name dropped. I've never heard of Zodiac. This is described as like a ecological thriller. The blurb on the back quotes, 2 centuries after the Boston Tea Party, harbor dumping is still a favorite sport, only this time it's major corporations dumping toxic wastes. And it seems like the main character is and so it seems that the main character is this environmentalist trying to spread the word of how the earth seems to be just completely polluted and degrading. And he's made an enemy of the FBI and of Satanist angel dust heads. It seems bananas. It seems crazy. It seems out there, which is not out there for the realm of Neal Stephenson. So I'm pumped to read this. I love the cover art too. It's such a sick looking book. The next book I won't talk too much about, doesn't really need any kind of introduction, but Dune Messiah, because I just read Dune this year and it it's my favorite book at the moment. What makes Dune Messiah so different for me, though, is for Dune, even before I saw the movies, I roughly knew what it was about and what happened. And obviously, after I watched the movies and I went into the book, I knew what was going to happen. But to this day, I've had no spoilers for Dune Messiah. I have no idea what happens to Paul and his whole circle of people. And just judging from the fact that I love the style of the writing of Dune. And I've heard some say that Dune Messiah is better than the original book. I don't know, but either way, if not just to learn what happens or like what concludes Paul's story, I'm stoked to read Dune Messiah. So the next two books I want to mention that I own that are coming up next. So these two books are books that I've had on my bookshelf for the longest. I've had them for so long, for months and months, and haven't read them. And I know you shouldn't want to read a book only because you've had it for too long, but that's how I feel. That's how I feel. I've had these for way too long, and I do want to read them. The first book is the book that I'm honestly the most scared to read from everything that I have heard. Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. It is one of my favorite booktubers' favorite book of all time, and lots of people love this book, obviously, and the writing style seems to be the highlight of the book, which I am a person who loves flowery writing, so it seems up my alley, honestly. I think I'm just letting all of these online opinions sway me too much and make me too fearful. I think either way, I'm going to get to this really soon. I've had this for way too long. What I actually like, there were two things about this book, kind of two things that led me to buy this. The first one was, the very first time I heard of this book, was actually a critique of the Poppy War. Like, I was reading this critique of the Poppy War, and they had this point to say that in the Poppy War, how unoriginal it was, that they just smoke opium like we do in real life, but how the Name of the Wind has some kind of like unique psychedelic drug within it or something. And that was the first way that I heard about Name of the Wind. And I was like, well, that sounds intriguing. That sounds kind of interesting. And then it's one of my favorite booktubers' favorite books, Thomas Howell. He talks, of course, extremely highly of it. And that, when I had heard that and heard his opinion, that was what made me go buy it. I need to get to it, honestly. I need to not let online opinions sway me from this, because I honestly think I will enjoy this from everything I've heard. So yeah, Name of the Wind is the first book I've had for way too long and not read. The second book, easily the one I've had the longest and just have not touched, is A Scanner Darkly by Philip K. Dick. So this book is essentially about an undercover. So this book is about an undercover officer, an undercover law enforcement agent, who's trying to track down these drug dealers who are dealing this extremely toxic psychedelic drug called Substance D. And so in order for the law enforcement agent to kind of get into this ring of drug dealers, he sort of disguises himself, and to sort of act like one of them, he kind of starts having to take small doses of it, from what I understand, to fit in. But it's such a potent psychedelic, it kind of splits your brain. And so he starts from what I understand, he starts becoming one of these criminals, but the other part of his brain, the law enforcement part of his brain, is like hunting himself down. So he's kind of living these two alternate lives because of the use of this drug. And it just sounds trippy, sounds really interesting. And obviously Philip K. Dick is a huge, huge influential writer in the sci-fi sphere. So I honestly am excited to get to this. I've owned this for way too long. So maybe I'll pick this up really soon. Got two more things I want to mention, two more books. There isn't really a special point to this book. This is just one that I really want to read soon that I'm really excited about. The Spear Cuts Through Water. So the description of this book kind of says that it's about these warriors who are shepherding an ancient god across a broken land so that they can end I believe their family's tyrannical rule over their country. I didn't dig too deep into reading about the plot, but I mean, first of all, the cover art grabbed me. I mean, the cover art is visually stunning. It looks gorgeous. But I read a few, I wouldn't even say spoiler-free reviews, but I read a few blurbs about this book, and apparently the writing style is really different, real experimental. I believe I've heard that they use first, second, and third person, and that it almost reads like a campfire story. Like it doesn't read like not like an author sat down and wrote this as a novel. Like it almost reads like someone's just telling you this story. And that was intriguing enough, and I had bought it, and I don't know, anytime I see really cool looking fantasy standalones, I'm all aboard. But yeah, I want to show that cover art one more time. It's such a beautiful looking book. So yeah, excited to read this. A Spear Cuts Through Water. Last thing I want to mention, manga. I don't read a ton of manga. In fact, the only manga that I've kept up with and I'm up to date on is One Piece. But I, for the longest time, have always been intrigued by Vagabond, which is sort of a historical fiction manga story retelling of the real life samurai Musashi. And I mean, it just looks incredible. And I mean, I wanted to read this way before I was even reading books at all, like before I consider myself a reader. And I remember wanting to read it on my phone, just on Viz Manga, and I never got to it. But then I started becoming a reader and started going to bookstores and stuff. I saw it in person and I was like, maybe I ought to just buy it, just read it physically. And I've had this for a while, and I had started a little bit of it, but I'm not a big fan of piggybacking between books. I want to pick this up as my current read, and I want to dig through this whole volume and see how I feel about it. I've heard there's a lot of action, a lot of fighting, which I love. But I've also heard there's lots of philosophy and just bits of life wisdom, which is also something that I really enjoy. So I feel like I'm guaranteed to love Vagabond. Super exciting. And that's pretty much it. I don't have strict TBR plans, and I don't think I'll do strict TBR videos, but I think doing these kind of just loose updates on where I'm at and like what books I really want to get to and stuff like that, I think this would be kind of fun. I'm definitely going to be doing this more often. So thanks for hanging with me, you know? If you're new here, I word it about the same way every time, but it's routine. I read a book excerpt from the journal, just something cool, something pretty, something scary. I don't know. Let's see what we find here. It was with some shock that I had realized I had a congregation. The old woman was kneeling in the fourth rows of pews. The black of her dress and the scarf blended so perfectly with the shadows there that only the pale oval of her face was visible, lined and ancient, floating, disembodied in the darkness. Hyperion by Dan Simmons. Thanks for hanging with me.